Okay. Okay, I don't see anybody in the chat yet, but I don't know if you want to like start like if we and then people come in or start like if we. Oh wait, the playback. Okay, yeah, because it's kind of like confused because I can't see the people, so it's like I'm still getting used to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The moderator is in the chat now, so I guess we can start now.
All right, great. So before we get into the conversation, I want to thank you, Fya, for inviting me to be part of your first event and to be in conversation around your very incredible and beautiful film, Welcome to the Healing Sanctuary. I have the privilege of kind of witnessing your evolution as a Rad Lab Outside the Walls fellows at Three Walls, and very proud to have been able to support the development of your film. So, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Like I guess like cause I'm more so like I'm thankful for like this fellowship, cause I was telling like our day like a couple of days ago, like before this fellowship I had no form of income, because like just like being like a person that have a disability or that's neurodivergent or have a disability that's not visible, and it's more challenging because I have to tell the employer because I have silent seizures, so I wasn't able to get a job. So once I got this, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna milk this for everything it's worth.
And we're glad that we're able to support you. The fellowship is about supporting artists within our Chicago community that typically wouldn't get this level of support. And so I'm glad that we've been able to add not just to your artistic life, but also your personal life in terms of income. So let's get into the conversation about the film.
Yes.
All right. So to begin our conversation, Fya, let's talk about the inspiration. Your film is a combination of artistic aesthetics, popular culture, and contemporary technology. What specific art and cultural moments serve as inspiration?
Okay, like first starting out, I love Afrofuturism. Like I'm a huge fan of it and like a participant of it. So like the film, like the base, it was based off of like Afrofuturism and Afro-surrealism, with just taking using Afro-surrealism and taking like the present situation, understanding what it is, and even if it can be a fixed situation, and then using like the different components of what make up Afrofuturism to create like an alternative reality, like for like me to exist in, into like of how can like I like to think of myself as like a shapeshifter. Like how can I transform in different parallel universe that exists in my mind? And
Go ahead.
yeah, I don't know if you want to go in, but I was going to say like also like the big like inspiration was like social media.
Yes.
And
So talk a little bit about the specific platforms. Were there specific platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse?
it was a combination of them all because like I'm still Because social media, ever since my accident, has been a tool for me to like connect with people. Because like I have really bad social anxiety, and others, my social skills was damaged from the car accident. So being on social media is like my way to interact with people without physically being next to people or having to talk to people. So like I just took like the different things, the trends that I see on social media, like when we be scrolling up and down, that's like the film, the different memes and the gifs, and just how we interact or just like absorb different information on social media.
Yeah, I think with social media, we tend to forget that while it can be harmful and be influential in a negative way with certain groups of folk, that there's also a whole nother set of folk who really use the platforms to connect, right? To your point around social anxiety, it is a really wonderful way to be able to connect with folk when you want to connect with them, right? And how you want to connect with them. And so I think it's really brilliant that there's this connection to social media with the visuals of the film.
Yeah. And then like another like big like inspiration, because like just like what Afrofuturism and Surrealism is, just being Black in America, and we had to reimagine um, our reality over and over again after like our ancestors were stripped from everything. So like that's like a huge like inspiration ever since I found out on like my father's side that my grandfather people are from the Gullah Geechee Islands, and just knowing like what they was able to do to rebel against freedom and stuff, and it always like made me want to like remember that. So I pay homage like when like I'm standing under the tree with the red veil to pay homage when an ancestor was lynched, and like the red veil represents the blood. And then in the beginning with the water, because there's a story about Yemaya, like when like the ancestors, when our people was being captured, she seen what was happening and traveled to Americas to experience like the pain what her children was going through. And just having that, still having that like that maternal energy and guidance. So because I love my mommy, so I
Yeah,
think that's
I think it's important to connect, right, the dots. And so you were talking about Afrofuturism, you were talking about Afro-surrealism, and the combination of these two kind of cultural and artistic philosophies in Black art, life, and culture. Um, and as I'm listening to you talk about the past, the present, and the future, I'm also recalling another really important African philosophy of Sankofa, right? Where, you know, to understand where you are, you have to look backwards, right? In order to go forwards. And so that's part of what you are doing with your film. Um, so in thinking about social media, the African and African American influence on your work, and thinking about Black folks, not just in the United States, but globally, right? We understand that experimentation in Black life, art, and culture is a way of being in our DNA, right? Like the way that we have been able to survive and to pass down various kinds of knowledges have been through that. So much of it comes from acknowledging what we know and what we have access to, uh, that can make for different or alternative ways. And you've spoken to Afrofuturism and Afro-Surrealism, but I'd like for you to explain a little bit more. How does experimentation offer you a method to make the art that you want to make?
Well, it like okay, when I was attending like the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, um, I never was introduced. I didn't know what the fine arts world was, so I was trying every like different thing. But because like I had muscle spasm, like one time I bust my finger wide open with a hammer trying to do metal work, and I wasn't able to do a lot of things with my hands. But I had my mind, and there was so many like possibilities that my mind thought of. And then so I'm like, well, the one good thing that I can do is like film, and I can keep trying to see what works. And I like to call myself like a disruptive artist, or I'm gonna fuck that shit up type of artist, or like I'm disrupting the norm, or I call myself like a self-expressionist because I just like to see what worked, because I had to force myself like failure isn't bad, but it is a part of that experimentation for you to continue to grow and evolve on your work.
Right. And I love what you just said, that failure isn't bad. The way that you learn, the way that you can figure things out, sometimes it may not go according to your plan, and that's not a bad thing. It is a learning opportunity. Um, so, in terms of experimentation, your inspiration, you and I had a earlier conversation around the Mr. Rogers documentary. Do you want to share a little bit with everyone?
Yeah, oh, I love Mr. Rogers. I grew up, but I cause like I'm okay. Before I dive in, like I'm a very like technical person. I'm a Virgo moon, so I like order and good quality and stuff. And I love watching films that's gonna challenge my mind. And just like hearing like the backstory of Mr. Rogers and finding out that he actually wanted to be a minister, and he actually have like a degree in child development, and he used like television as a medium to combine like his ministry and child development. And as like I was like watching it and seeing like the, because I never knew he was the all the voices for the different puppets, and what they were saying, like when he was younger growing up, he couldn't be angry, he couldn't express his anger. So King Friday was that part of him that couldn't express that anger, and every Muppet expressed like a different part of him. And as like I was watching, I started like noticing, like even though like he was like a gentle soul, but he was petty too. Cause like I know like there was situation with like racial tension, and with one of the black co-stars in the pool, and he couldn't go to the pool because he was black. So that's what the scene where he put his foot in the water with the black person. And like, and that's the thing I want to see more like film and television program that's going to help shape like a more just society for all.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers has a really incredible history and story that I think we can all learn from. Uh, do you mind sharing some of your um, inspiration in terms of filmmakers or other films?
Yeah, okay. So like I have some, I don't know necessarily like the filmmaker's name, but like I have like films that I love. Like I love Daughters of the Dust. I
Yes.
just love
I
how
feel
it, Yes, it's so beautiful. And
Yes.
like you just can absorb like the beauty of blackness. And because it's about Gullah Geechee, and that's another reason why I love it too. But and I also love Ease Bayou because I love how it was like this tapestry of different memories and thoughts beautifully woven together
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And of course, I like Boots Riley, his latest film, Sorry to Bother You, because it's just weird and different, and that's right up my alley. And there's many other films, but those are like the three that really stand out for like my aesthetics. But like I have like artists that I really like Missy Elliott, Macy Gray.
Favorite, Missy Elliott is my favorite. Missy is someone who drives our work at Three Walls. So I didn't know that. That's something I learned about you today.
Yeah, I love like I think she is a great epitome of what Afrofuturism is and how she constantly pushing the lines and the boundaries. And also she also have a disability too. She had Graves syndrome.
Yep.
And so like I think that's like very like important. I absolutely love Missy Elliott.
Yeah, Missy is influential in so many ways and has is a pioneer, and someone who has absolutely been ahead of the curve. And I would even say like she's probably in between like Afrofuturism and Afro-surrealism, with the visuals and the way that she dresses in the videos and when she performs, and then the the lyrics. So lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, and I also like going back to the Mr. Rogers thing because when I was watching it and I started thinking about what's the guy LeVar Burton or Read the Rainbow, and
Yes.
because like while like I was watching the Mr. Rogers documentary, and I started thinking about like why I don't remember reading Rainbow as much as Mr. Rogers, because I
Mhm.
know that was like very like popular, very impactful for the Black community, and just finding out that it started in '83 and ended in 2009, and like I don't have no nostalgic feeling for it, but it also made me think about like Black filmmakers and Black projects don't get the proper funding or the marketing that's needed. And I think that's the next step in moving in filmmaking for Black people so we can make projects of good quality. Because like I'm seeing a lot of projects on Netflix of what a lot of Black creators want to create, but the money, the proper funding isn't there for them to execute the idea like they want. And I think that's the next step that we need to have as Black filmmakers and creators, that we need like the money to do things like as we envision. That's why I'm thankful for Three Walls. Of course, like I changed my idea a lot of time and I went off script because I'm a dreamer, I'm a risk taker. But I thank y'all for for not like doubting me, because I had that a lot of time making people feel like a burden when I have all these dreams, but just being like a support system.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, the beautiful thing about being part of Three Walls, and for me on a personal level, is being able to work closely with artists and to see the ideas evolve. And truly, the whole point of this particular fellowship is to invite artists to dream, right? And I think you're touching on something really important around funding for filmmakers, Black filmmakers, creators, and artists, is that without the proper funding and support system, it's really difficult to create the space to dream, right? And to create the vision and to make the work that you want to make, oftentimes you are having to adjust that because of funding. And so you are absolutely right in acknowledging that there needs to be more funding, like just money flowing and giving artists and creatives the space to dream, to imagine, with a little bit of a support system.
Yeah, and I also want to put out that they are making a documentary about reading Rainbow. It's called Butterfly something.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be really excited to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
LeVar Burton is a cultural icon in our community. And I think you are right in terms of funding, right? And the visibility within the television and filmmaking and the arts in general. So as we move towards the end of our conversation, let's close with the importance of accessibility. So accessibility has a number of meanings for different people, and we want to be really specific here, right? So from how someone obtains something to how something can be understood. And so while this applies to your film, Fya, what is the role of accessibility and why is it important?
yeah. I guess like I wanted to say like when I first started learning about accessibility, I wanted to make sure like I include all the different facets of people with different types of disabilities. But there are millions of different types of disabilities. And as like I'm learning, like my main focus right now are like people who are neurodivergent and chronic illness because that's the category that I fall under. And just like the fact that like we all know accessibility needs for people in wheelchairs and people who use walking devices like a ramp or a plane level so they can get around, or like an ASL interpreter for people who are deaf, and then the braille or other people. I'm not sure all the things for people who are blind, but it's not talk about like for people who are neurodivergent or have chronic illness, because I worked in some places where they said they was for all people with disability, but my needs were non-existent, or they ignored it because they couldn't see it, or it was something different because they wasn't used to somebody saying, well, this is not working, we need to change this around, with basically like the organization. So because I was going back and forth if I wanted to show the film with subtitles or the main version, the regular, and I chose that because the film is created just from how I take in information, with just being neurodivergent, the multiple thoughts, the racing thoughts, the no thoughts at all, the ups and downs, and like the how the thoughts just intrude and just dissipate. So I want to show that through the film. So like I'm really pushing and standing firm and standing up for people who are neurodivergent and have chronic illness.
Yeah, and you're bringing up a really important point in that accessibility as it relates to disability and disabled individuals, that we do need to consider all aspects of that. And you and I have talked about how neurodivergent individuals are not always seen, right? Because it's not a physical disability per se. And so, in thinking about the film and wanting to create uh, a work of art that reflects the way that you think, your lived experience, how is the film going to kind of introduce or kick off the rest of the events that you have planned?
Oh, okay. So, Well, like this film and the app is really to show people how I use my creativity and talent to create opportunities for myself. Because the fact that like my experience like of getting employment was like extremely hard, and I had to take matters into my own hands. And that's exactly what I want to teach the BIPOC people with disabilities, how they turn how to use their skills, talents, and creativities to create opportunities for themselves. And just starting this conversation. And then my next event is going to be an expo where we're going to be having workshops and panel discussions and training on like the importance of protecting your brand and intellectual property, how to what is like an urban brand, like what is like accessible living and medical racism, and then like a panel discussion because I was a part of the collective, the disability collective that created the CESA bill. Like BIPOC people with disabilities are doing amazing things out here, and that's what I'm bringing to life with the expo. And so, like, I'm just sharing like all the what I how I'm using my skills and art to create opportunities for myself to lead into the expo to show other BIPOC people to create opportunities for themselves.
Right. So demonstrating that they too can dream and imagine and help shape a world where their needs are also met.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask one more question, and I think then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. Out of this whole experience of making your film, what was the most joyous? What
Uh,
gave you the most joy?
it is working with my buddy Bowtie. He also went to SIC with me. Um, he's just a person, or do they go by they? Because they go by non-binary. It's kind of confusing, but Bowtie. I'm just gonna call it Bowtie. like like Bowtie understands me. He's a person that I can bring my crazy ideas to, and he would well Bowtie would just make it happen. And while doing this like project, I see myself like like Bowtie was really putting in the works and making my dream come true. And I had to tell Bowtie, like, take a step back. Like, I understand, like, you excited, but I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. So, like, this editing process was literally supposed to take 1 month, but it actually took like almost 6 months because, like, putting in like that self-care portion, that understanding, and just building that friendship and understanding that, like, I don't want you to overwork yourself, and just like having that, and just I'm just thankful for both sides because he invented a new way of editing. Because I don't know how he did it, but the stuff that's in the film that never before, and he just made it happen.
So you're talking about the power of collaboration. You're talking about the power of a generative relationship where you're both contributing and it's reciprocal, and this exchange, which leads to this level of care, right? Again, how can we reimagine a future where care for someone else is just as important as care for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's so important because that's one thing I learned throughout my time in the fellowship, the importance of having boundaries and standards and just respecting minds and respecting other people. Because me as a Taurus, like, I like to get my way. I like people to see things my way, but I'm doing too much. I can't do this. Like it's like I just understand, and that's when I start finding myself like pulling back, and I really start finding that before having this fellowship, I put unnecessary pressure on myself and I overwork myself. And so while working on the I Am event series, Disability, Art, Life, and Culture, it taught me how to be more kind and gentle to myself and understanding that I have multiple disabilities and that there's are going to be days where I'm not able to do things. And knowing that I'm not a failure, I'm not lazy, that's just a part of life and how I experience life. So
Wonderful. Well, I think that's probably a really great way to end, about taking care of yourself and centering yourself in order to be able to do the work. Um, let's see if we have any questions.
yes, are there any questions? Like I only see two people in the chat, the moderator and Felicia. Hey Felicia girl. But yeah, I don't like I don't know if it's like because like if this the social is different, it's not like continuous, it's different like sessions and stuff. But like because that's the thing, because I'm still getting used to it. But yeah, I don't see any questions. But yeah, so yeah, all right, check again. Oh, look in the Q&A. Oh, snap, there are questions. Kennedy says, I'm curious how long making the film took you. Okay. So, so the film, we actually shot the film in 3 days. I don't I wouldn't consider anybody doing that. I'm not on no Tyler Perry type stuff, but because this is of a good quality. Tyler Perry is another story because he got the money. He's just being cheap. But especially when you shooting on location and racing against like the sunlight, and yeah, it took 3 days, but I will say like you need to get multiple people in place and that play different roles, because putting it all on yourself, that's a lot of work. Trying to manage a lot of different personalities. Yeah. Yeah. And TJ says, as a Black disabled person with many traumas, as well as being on the autism spectrum, I am still discovering my healing space and don't know where to look, whether it's based on movie or from your own experiences. What are ways we could get inspiration to find our healing spaces within ourselves or surround environment that is disability and Afro-friendly? I would say what really helped me is I start focusing on me, finding my core, like understanding me, the goods and the bads. Cause now I accept me for all of me. Like I'm clingy, I'm obsessive, and I have a temper, and I'm also passionate and I'm peaceful, but that all makes me, and I guess like just being in a state of constantly relaxing and reevaluating who you are and what's working and not, and just creating a system that works for you, that work with your natural body movement. I don't know if you want to add anything. Uh, Okay. Well, I guess those are the only two questions. So I thank you for taking time out to talk with me. I'm very appreciative of it. And
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
okay. Well, yeah, so I guess I end the stream. On June 19, 1865, not all black enslaved people were freed from slavery. Even though the myth tells us Texas was the last place black folks found out they were free after the ending of the Civil War in 1863, have non-disabled black people ever thought about what happened to the disabled, enslaved black people after 1865? Have non-disabled black people thought about how disability became taboo in the black community? How the very institution of slavery crippled the black American race? Disabled black people weren't able to leave the plantation as freely as their non-disabled counterparts due to mobility and cognitive challenges. Antoinette Harrell is responsible for doing the research and writing the book about the black people who were still enslaved until 1963. Juneteenth is supposed to celebrate black freedom in America. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, disabled black folks were placed in freak shows and human zoos. Blind Tom Wiggins was a piano prodigy who was the first black person to perform at the White House, but he never reaped the benefits of his talents. The white people who owned him sure did though. This Saturday, I had to be the angry black woman to ensure the ancestors' pain and struggles weren't in vain. A disabled black man thought it would be a good idea to sing America's national anthem at the accessible Juneteenth celebration. I took a stand to educate everyone how disrespectful that act was, not to even mention the second stanza of the song. It wasn't even Lift Every Voice that was sung to commemorate the ancestors' legacy.